Hey everyone, have you felt stuck or out of alignment? Are you getting triggered by your children or your circumstances and you're not even really sure why? Well, then stick around with us today if that's resonating with you, because we're going to cover 4 pillars that are going to create this shift in your life that you're looking for. My name is Cheryl Bassett. I'm founder of Unstoppable Connections, international bestseller, and creator of the award-winning Unstoppable Family Meeting Toolkit. I am also the host of this show, Kitchen Table Conversations, as part of the Edge Network and the Global One Network. Families do get to tap into my heartbeat, which is really around these 4 gifts and how they create an unshakable, unbreakable foundation for families. So if you would like to learn more about the 4 gifts and the work that I do, you can go to unstoppableconnections.com. And if you have an idea for the show or you'd like to be on the show, you can also reach out to me at kitchentableconversations.com. Now, what I like to do is set an intention for the show, and I do this for every show because I feel like it's just so important to sort of ground in this space. But the show does really cover the fun stuff to the tough stuff and everything in between. All of it, though, is designed to ignite a conversation, to strengthen your family, and to create a positive ripple out into the world. So with that intention, what we do is we unwrap the 4th gift, the gift of love. These are the gifts I mentioned earlier, the gift of love. And we unwrap the gift of love by choosing to celebrate ourselves and others. So it's with that open heart and that intention that we celebrate the person who came here today to share with us her heart, her skills, her talents, and her beauty. So let me just read her bio real quick, and then I'm going to bring her on so you can all meet her. So her name's Jaclyn Wagner, and after a horrific car accident where Jaclyn almost lost her life, Jaclyn was left physically and emotionally and mentally debilitated. The driven, determined, and fearless individual she once knew was unrecognizable. Through this experience, she learned to take adversity and suffering and turn it into her greatest asset. Now, as an author, speaker, podcast host, and coach, Jaclyn specializes in working with parents and high-achieving professionals using the 4 pillars of her method that we're going to talk about, called the Reconnect Method. Individuals discover how to stop suffering and feeling stuck. Jaclyn shows you how to use your adversity as an asset to get you into the trajectory and momentum that you desire, crushing all your goals in business and your family life. So with that, let me bring Jaclyn on so you can meet her.
Hi.
How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
Good. It's great to have you here. I know we scheduled it a few times and you're here. Yay.
Yeah. All in divine, perfect timing when we're supposed to be. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was really wonderful. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. Well, I was excited to have you come on, and I know we again sort of went through some gyrations, but you just got back from a trip, so I'm so jealous. Where did you go again?
I went to Jamaica. I just got back, so I've been posting all my stories on social media, and everyone's been just soaking up the rays. But most people say, how is it going back to reality? And I'm like, I live in Naples, Florida, so it is my weather of reality.
Yeah. But it's nice to just know somebody that's traveling right now. So,
yes.
So anyway, what I like to do is, obviously you have a story, and I talked a little bit about that. Just why? How did you land doing what you're doing? Why are you so passionate about it? I know I touched a little bit on your story, but tell us more about that journey for you.
I have always just had this connection, this passion for kids. Even when I was younger, all the way through, and it was just something that made me light up. And through my own experience, not only in childhood, but as I grew up, and then finally being in this auto accident, I was actually in the crossroads of road rage of 2 other cars, and the car hit me instead. And I was injured physically, but he got out to attack me as I was attempting to get out of the car, and I was in the inner city, and I thought he was going to shoot me. My students that I was actually there, I was working on a contract, were the ones that came to my rescue. So it was something that was so traumatic, so traumatic for me. And it was even more traumatic because people didn't understand to the full extent what I was going through. It wasn't as if I got shot or, there was this major ruckus of some sort. And it just really took me into a 180. I ended up going through all of these things where I was stuck in my head, and I thought I failed myself. I couldn't trust myself anymore. I was in such anxiety, post-traumatic stress. And the person that I knew, this driven, strong person that I knew was like gone. I was homebound. I couldn't even have the doorbell ring or the phone ring. It was just, I was like the shell of a person inside. But on the outside, I would attempt to just be okay. You know, people wouldn't see me for weeks, and it was just because I was crumbling inside. So I tried to hide that too. And a lot of this came from what I went through and my experiences and beliefs as a child, through my parents' divorce, things that happened. My dad got remarried, and my brother was born when I was 16, my sister when I was 18. I picked up my first child psychology book at 16 because some of the family dynamics that we went through, we all have dysfunction. We all have something that's there. And I didn't want the same things I went through to happen to my brother and sister. And I wanted to be there as, you know, the support and be another role model. You know, I was starting this at 16. But the accident really showed me, being so strong that I was growing up and growing in this environment and having to grow up so fast through my parents' divorce, all these things were a crutch to me. It wasn't until I hit my rock bottom that I had to rebuild myself. And through it, it was the one thing, I was so positive. It was the one thing that I said, I don't know how something good is going to come out of this. It was just like, oh my God. So for me, when I finally hit that moment and was like, this just shattered everything for me, I had to rebuild from there. So It was a long duration. It was a long duration of understanding, really giving back to myself. I had given back to the world for, you know, with everyone, and working with parents. A lot of times I work more so with moms than with dads, and that maternal instinct, we go into this doing mode for everyone. And I lived my life that way. I learned that early on, and it wasn't intentional for my parents to kind of have me be that collateral damage. They both loved me very much, but it was the fact of what I grew up in with that. And you know, that put me in that momentum.
Yeah, I agree. I have a similar background in terms of just a little bit of that nut crazy going on the front, right? But it wasn't all bad. I felt loved, but it was a little, yeah. And so with those things I know you're going to talk about, those become strengths. Ultimately, you learn to embrace and look at those in a different way. The other thing that popped in my mind, and I know it's not an exact analogy, but there's, you know, we've all heard the expression about sticks and stones may break my bones, but it can never hurt me. And it's really not true, especially it would be a child, right? Because it's hard to separate this. As you were saying, like, it might have been easier if you wanted to be shot, but like people would have been, they would have been, oh, you were shot, or you know what I mean? Like, it would have been, but getting someone to understand the pain that comes from some emotional aspect of it is one of the challenges, I think. It's like we can't physically touch it and understand it always. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the whole matter of this is I was just thrown into this situation with the accident. So I was so scared, even, you know, my students being there and the cops coming. I didn't say a word. I didn't say a word that he got out to attack. Like, I didn't say anything. I didn't even put anything out there, because in that moment I started second guessing myself. Like, did I see something? Didn't I see something? And it was just, you know, it started that spiral for me. And, and it was a little bit of time where I was kind of getting my own you know, footing with it. And then I actually had a minor fender bender happen where my tire blew out. And that was when I turned chronic. I just was like, I can't leave the house. I can't trust myself. And it was, you know, this total 180. But the whole point of this is that I was so strong. I am like the strongest. I say this to myself, all the people I know, I am such a strong and powerful female that that's what took me through. And it took something like that, because if it wasn't for that, I wasn't going to be able to reevaluate all the different beliefs and the conditioning that I had, that I was living through, this unconscious state. I wasn't able to come into full awareness. And I was just actually speaking to someone else about this. I started reading all these books, 16, 17, 18. I pulled some of these books back out again with just some of the trainings and things, and it's totally different with where you are. So this and the conditioning that we have runs really deep. And if you are that beer, that doer, that high achieving, you know, professional, even if you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, you still have that innate, that A personality. Yeah. It's harder to break down some of those beliefs and those conditioning once you've, you know, attached it to it. Or if you're that strong-willed child when you were younger, you finally broke into believing it, it takes a lot in order to unravel it.
Right. It does. Yeah. So it sounds like what happened was you had this journey, you went through this traumatic event, and then you slowly came back into your power, your voice. And when you did, you sort of had this like, was it like an aha moment where you just kind of put it all together again? Or
it's been aha moments along the way, and it's so surreal for me because it's what people that I work with go through. You have this aha moment and you kind of get it, and then you have more of these aha moments. But the first one really was, I knew that I couldn't rely on anyone else. Not only could I not trust them, but they didn't know how to give me what I needed. I needed to be the one. It was within inside me. We have all the answers within us. We just have to, uncover them. And I said to myself, I need to take self-care. This is self-care, healing physically. I had to get surgery, mentally, emotionally. And I sat in the room with the four walls and I just looked around and I'm like, I'm not allowed to give to myself. And it was the first aha moment that was like, holy crap, I programmed myself. I have to earn what I give back to myself. I have to earn love. I have to earn success. I have to earn everything I had to earn in order to give that back to myself. And I was like, that was really the moment that I saw how debilitated I was and what a crutch it was of what I was doing. And I sobbed and sobbed. I was just like, oh my gosh, how do I pull out of this? And it was a very slow journey. It was about 7 years, of really going through all this and physical therapy and, going through the normal therapy. And it's like, this doesn't work, so it was a lot of that. But there were aha moments all along the way. And that was the first one.
So you created this method, the Reconnect Method. Part of that is are these 4 pillars that we talked a little bit about in the opening of this. So if you were going to just, and I know you can't really jump into them, but give us a snapshot of the pillars.
Okay. So if we've ever seen kind of the wheel of life, we all have different aspects to ourselves, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and then it breaks down even into, our financial health and, our diet, and we can break things down like that. So what I did with the 4 pillars is it's an acronym, reconnection. And each one stands for something. And the first phase of it, or the first pillar, is the physical aspect. It shows us everything that we do interacting with someone, interacting with your children or with your spouse or your significant other. How are you communicating? What are the beliefs that you have? We kind of get into the beliefs of it with those interactions. And then from there, we go into the emotional aspect, because as you know, when you are in physical interaction, you then are triggered by things. And your children, I want to just say, are the biggest and greatest gift that you have, because they're the blueprint of what you need to work on within yourself. They're the fast accelerating track for you. So as much as it's overwhelming to be a parent, there's such a gift in it. And it's the reason why I'm really passionate about it. But it takes us into the emotional phase. And we take a look at the triggers that we have and why the triggers are there and how they're attached to those beliefs that kind of surface in the physical phase. And then we get into the mental phase, which is really the chatter. What's in your head with the chatter that's there? Most of the time, we start with the self-critic, how we criticize things, because as a parent, especially, and in this day and age, we are conditioned that everything that we do with our child or our child does is a reflection of who we are as a person. It's a reflection of our worthiness. And what is the chatter? And we kind of bring that together. And then the 4th phase is the vibrational piece, the masculine and the feminine energy. We are in such a time, we're all energy. We all kind of, give and receive. I mean, simplistically put, if you are in a room and you walk in and you see that person, your eye goes to, and you're like, why is that person staring at me? What's going on with this? You get that energetic feel of what's going on with it. And that's really what I talk about. And it's a lot about masculine and feminine energy. These days, we're either stuck in, women for the most part get stuck in their doing, in their masculine energy, and men are allowed to show emotions and cry, and sometimes they get stuck in the feminine energy. So we need to take a look at that. And the greatest thing when I work with people in a program is we work backwards to frontwards when we actually work in the program itself to give you the foundation, the energetic foundation and the mental, and then you can handle the emotional and the physical.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So we're going to recap these because just some people join in a little bit later. So the physical is first, as far as how you're doing through this right now. Like you said, you sort of work in reverse when you're working with someone. So the physical, and that's like your interactions with your children, and the different interactions that you have. And then the second one is emotional, and that's where your triggers come in, right? And I know we talked about that. Let's stop on that one for just a second, because one of the things I said when I was introducing you was we have these triggers, and sometimes we don't even realize like why they're triggering us, right?
Right.
So am I correct in that what you're saying is those triggers are coming somewhere, probably in the beginning, talking about your vibrational, like when you said you work backwards, right? I assume you're working through to try to identify why those triggers are actually happening.
Right. A lot of times when I first wrote my book, it starts front, where you start with the physical and the emotional. And when you don't have the foundation to really understand and have the awareness with the energies that are there, the masculine, feminine, the chatter that's in your head, and, doing certain things that are customized to you. Does meditation work for you? Does something else, walking in nature? It's all about customizing a foundation to set you up so you are in a safe place within yourself to actually be able to go through the emotional piece. Because every trigger you have, I mean, most parents out there, especially have multiple kids, there's one child that does something and you are like fuming. There's a gift in there. That is adversity and suffering that you're feeling. It's this alert going off, like your child's here for you to really dive into this and find out why it's there. And it gets attached to those beliefs and the conditioning that we have and the worthiness of who we are.
Right. I love that. Okay. So then the third one is the mental. So physical, emotional. Third one's mental. And that's where we have the chatter. Right. And I think, oh my, like that's massive, I think, for a lot of people. Right. And then the fourth is the vibrational. That's where you're actually tapping into the masculine and the feminine. So is there a balance that we're supposed to have?
Absolutely. And one thing that we have to remember, I know for me in growing up and everything, I was taught, when my parents divorced, I was raised spent majority of my time with my dad and my brother. So I was with the boys, even going to school, I had tons of guy friends, even in high school and college, I'm still friends with them. And I was always in this masculine energy, this being, this doing, this initiating. That's what the masculine energy is. And that's what we do when we become parents. And for moms, particularly, they have to really understand the feminine energy is where you attract everything to you. If you think of just intercourse, the man penetrates the woman, that's the masculine energy, and the woman receives. And when we don't get into that receiving and we don't take care of ourselves and we don't have that ebb and flow, that's when we get into this off center, this off kilter with things. And the same thing with men. They need to be able to feel like they're in that masculine energy. They need to be given certain tools where they're being and they're doing and they're feeling successful. It's great to touch into the feminine aspect. It's great to touch into your emotions. That's amazing. That's consciousness. But we have to be able to balance the two, and having the awareness of it and knowing what your triggers are even for that. And when you fall into it and all of those things, that's really how you balance it. So there is, and it's always a journey. It's always a journey with everything.
Yeah, it's interesting because I too was in a lot of masculine energy, and when I was in business, initially I was around a lot of men, and so I was always in that masculine energy, and I very much became a doer, like always doing something. Like felt like I had to be efficient, felt like I had to be on task, and then a couple of years ago when I got sick, it actually forced me into more of being state, and that beingness, I found so much power. And but so now I know, like, knowing both sides of it, I can really balance that out. But I realize that being, we all have, but we're not human doings, we're human beings. Sometimes being is the most powerful thing we get to do. Yeah.
And I'm sure even with your experience with that, being in this doing phase, you start to identify, you start to feel good. It's almost like an addiction sometimes. I know that high achieving professional, especially, it's, I did this and look what I achieved. And we condition ourselves even more into that aspect of things. And we identify with it. Our worthiness then comes, the self-love that we give to ourselves, if we even do, comes from the doing. And that's why it's such an addiction to just be in the being phase until something like that happens. And, you know, the goal for me as an author, speaker, coach is to help people to bypass that, help them to understand and get to the point of awareness and consciousness. And I always talk about really looking at the leaks that are in your relationship, whether you're dating or you're married or, you know, your business or whatever you're doing. There's leaks that are there. It's a hidden ingredient that's there for you. And how I explain it is, think of a recipe. If you're making a cake and you have all the things like a professional baker, even that, the moist thing that goes around the pan, so everything is like evenly cooked and the ends aren't, you know, all hard and all of that, but yet it doesn't taste right. It tastes horrible. You have to identify that you have all the ingredients, but maybe that egg is rotten. The hidden ingredient that is the thing that you need to really take a look at, and not only just buy that egg from the store, but now that you have awareness, you're going to get it right from the chicken that laid the egg. And how much awesome is that going to really taste for you then when you have that recipe? So for me, it's, I tell people, let's get to know one another, jump on a call, 30 minutes or less. We're going to tackle one thing that's a leak in your business, in your life, home, whatever it is. And let's take a look at it and identify what that egg is, because you're going to make all different types of recipes. And if we are a fit, then you know, and you have the assurance and that self-trust in yourself to work with me as a coach. And that's me giving back from a servant's heart to help people.
Do you see there's, is it different for everybody, or do you feel like there's a certain thing that typically shows up a lot more consistently for people in that space, or is it all over the place?
You know what? It all depends on where they are. You know, the consistent things are the awareness of the beliefs, the awareness of the conditioning, but everybody's experience is different. And that's the reason why, especially working with parents, I don't believe in having a cookie cutter program. There's not a cookie cutter system. You can listen to a video that allows you to apply self-discovery to your life, but you have to be the one that's ready to do the work and really apply what you did when you were younger, or what you're doing now, or whatever's going on in your present moment, and going to whatever avenue in order to find that. So it's a formula where you plug in the variables for your life and you get this beautiful answer that's not only is an aha moment, but then there's immediate relief right after it. The suffering is gone for that specific thing. And it is the ultimate joy that I get. I have chills just saying it when I'm on a Zoom call and that parent or that professional has that moment and it's like, wow, I get it. You know, it's just exhilarating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're making me think, because I know, and I don't think it's exactly the same, but I think it's similar. I've done some work with like theta healing, which actually allows you to go back and kind of look at some of the core beliefs that get developed. So, and one of the things that you and I just like recently talked about was you're not a parenting coach, which is very different. You're a coach that actually works with parents, right? So it's not like there's a lot of parenting coaches that I've actually had on the show, but you're actually a coach with the parents. But if you were thinking about those parents, and as they're going through something, are there conversations that they can have done at the family level with their children?
The biggest thing that I can say as far as table conversation is parents need to do more listening than speaking. That is there is so much knowledge that your children, especially when they're younger, the things they say and the way that their brain and the synapses connect, when we give them that space to do it. But we're so conditioned to let me teach them, let me mold them, let me make them. And it really, all of that energy is us having our worthiness of we need to achieve as a parent. So if you're able to put something out there, ask a question and just, what do we think about that? The greatest thing that you can say is, what do you think about that? And not with an attitude, not with, what do you think about that? Tell me. It has to be in this, almost like your child's age. I talk about this in the mental aspect, the steps of it is, you have to become that age. think of the way you were, if your child's 7 or 8, what were you at 7 or 8? How would you interact if you go back, that inner child within you? How would you interact? So
Yeah.
it's not about becoming a friend to your child. It's just about tapping into your own innocence and allowing them to pour forth through themselves to you.
I think I always say it's more about mutual respect and valuing each other in the process. And one of my favorite quotes, and you definitely made me think of it just now, is that children are not meant to be molded, but unfolded. And I think when you allow them to unfold and they're becoming the best version of who they get to be, that's the most powerful thing you can do. Otherwise, you start putting the box in the lid, and then they spend the rest of their life fighting for the limitations that you created.
Right. Absolutely. And you're only creating them because of what you're living vicariously, so to speak, in certain regards with it. And it's the programming that's there. So that's, another thing, just a nugget. If you're facing something right now to where you don't understand why your child's acting a certain way or why they're choosing to do things or anything like that. Like I know some of the older parents that have older children, the tattoos have been a huge thing that wasn't for them when they were younger. It's the time to take a look at, why is this upsetting me so much? Why am I possibly devaluing my 22-year-old child for a tattoo, just as an example? What is the belief behind it? What do I need to learn? There's something in here that I need to take that rotten egg in my belief system and my conditioning and replace it with a fresh egg for my recipe. So
Gotcha.
So that's really, really, really use those things that are really triggering you to ask yourself. I have a special way to journal where you can journal so you're not thrown in the loop of venting and you're actually thrown in a positive momentum. And I, would be happy to share that as well. I can actually add that into my, if they go to my website and they sign up for all the videos that I have, I'll even add that into the member vault free.
Is it this one, or is it the Reconnect?
Parenting Insider Secrets. Yep, exactly. So that's it. But the way to journal is, it doesn't have to be a certain amount of time. You dictate what you want to journal and how you want to journal, but it gives you the foundation for you to choose on how much time. But it's really about not sitting in the momentum of venting and venting and venting, but switching it to where you want to go with things. Where do you want things to be? How do you want to change what you're envisioning of your reality, what you're seeing through the eyes right now? How do you want to change that to be different in the future for yourself and for your child?
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so for those of you who might be listening later, we upload this as a podcast. It's parentinginsidersecrets.com. So just if you want to go grab that or connect with Jaclyn, that's the place to go do that. So anyway, we do close out. We talked about this. It's hard. It's so fast, but we do close out every show with what we call a dot. It's a drop of thought, which is like a pearl of wisdom. So is there any parting thought or something that you want to share? But just what's your dot that you would like to leave with the audience?
The greatest thing, I'll piggyback on what I was saying before, is the thing that you are dealing with that's the biggest struggle for you with your children, the greatest adversity as a parent right now. And maybe it's not even with your child, maybe it's with your spouse. That's a possibility too. Whatever's that greatest adversity, it's time to look at what's behind it. What is that hidden ingredient for you that is trying to come forth to tell you something to transform? So, and just really sitting down and ask yourself, how am I feeling about this? What's attached to it? When did I feel this way? The first time I felt this way. Identifying those things will really start to give you some answers, and just taking the time to be with yourself, just being, like you said, not a human doer, a human being, and really sit with yourself and let that pour forth.
Beautiful. Yeah. So it's kind of like sometimes we look at the person and we think it's about them, and really it's a reflection of us.
Right. It's just mirroring. It's like, and then we get in a tennis match back and forth with it. Yep. So we want to be the one, especially as parents, we think we're going to win this. We're going to win this. If you win the game, then you're doomed. But if you can actually grab the ball and stop the tennis match pattering and mirroring back and forth, that's when you have the real victory.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's beautiful. All right. So we are at the end, and thank you so much for being here. I do close out every show with the exact same dot that I share, because it's really my heartbeat, my passion. But that ripples, they don't flow in, they flow out. And if we really want to see change out in our world, then it's going to start with us in our own homes, with our own families first. So connect with your family, make it meaningful, recognize that it's not just about that time you spend at the table, it's about how you're all going to show up in the world. So thank you so much, Jaclyn, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really had a great time.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.